You know how some people, as in a lot of people in this nation, get really, really excited about sporting events? They'll have people over and essentially throw parties just to watch people play a sport on a screen. I myself have never understood this, and I know I'm probably going to get a lot of pushback just because of the fact that I don't really care for mainstream sports, but that's the thing, I just don't. However, there was an event last night that brought me and a bunch of my friends together to actually have a party to watch something happen on a screen. Amazing how something can actually make me want to do that. But here's the thing. It wasn't your traditional sporting event. It's been described by many as a sport of the mind. The sport that I participate in and the sport that I absolutely love. Debate. Now, it wasn't exactly a top-notch debate, however, it was entertaining. While both of the debaters would have admittedly probably gotten a double loss in the league that I participate in, it was really entertaining for my friends and I to watch. I'm talking, of course, about Presidential Fight Night 2024, also known as the Presidential Debate, hosted by, I can't believe I actually watched it on this network last night, CNN. Yeah, this is the first time that I've probably ever intentionally watched CNN, and most likely the last. But it was worth it, because this debate was very entertaining. Like I said, it wasn't exactly top-notch, but I didn't really expect that going in. I watched it and I had people over to watch it because we were going to have fun and we were going to laugh. Mission accomplished. Unfortunately, I'm not the only one who thought that it was entertaining. According to Newsweek, quote, China is mocking the US presidential debate, calling it very entertaining, end quote. Not to say that I completely agree with China, but I completely agree with China. At least it was entertaining. We'll dive into that today. Welcome back to Free Speech. Before we get started with some analysis, I thought that I would show you a couple of clips from last night's debate just so that you can see a taste of why it was so entertaining last night. Brace yourself. This is not exactly good debating. But like I've said, that's to be expected, so enjoy these clips.
You say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced him. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what anyway, just take a look at what he says he is and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf with you. He told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if We finally beat Medicare.
I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America.
All right. 2 things that we can take away from that. 1, last night was probably the most self-controlled I have ever seen Donald Trump during a debate or any kind of a press event. While he wasn't his usual self and the usual energy wasn't there, this is probably the way to win people over. If I go into a debate round and I insult my opponents, insult their case, and say that everything that they're trying to advocate for is stupid, I may be right, but I'm not going to win anybody over. A more self-controlled approach is honestly the way to do that. This is the closest to self-controlled I think I have ever seen Donald Trump on a debate stage. And I gotta be honest, it was probably pretty effective. Now, in addition to that, there's the one last thing that we can take away from this. There were no fact checks in last night's debate. In a team policy round, we have to read evidence and we have to support everything we say down to the smallest detail. Last night, there wasn't any active fact-checking going on, so I thought that I would do a little bit of this for myself. I did it specifically with this one claim that was made in the last clip that I showed, where President Biden said that there are 1,000 trillionaires, no-wait billionaires in the United States of America. While there are not even close to 1,000 trillionaires, and I couldn't find an exact number on that, I was able to find out how many billionaires there actually are. According to Forbes, there are around 735 as of 2023. There are not 1,000 billionaires in America. This whole eat the rich routine has honestly got to stop. If you got that much money, you got it because you worked hard, you played your cards right, and you figured out how to get ahead of the system. Good for you. We don't need to keep perpetuating this whole eat the rich thing. I honestly think that it's ridiculous, and I think that after this claim especially, this whole thing just needs to stop. But that aside, what are other people saying? I have a collection of headlines and quotations from various articles that I looked up earlier, all of which came out either right after the debate or this morning. So let's check these out. Quote, Democrats are questioning whether Joe Biden should continue his re-election bid after a debate disaster against Trump last night. Reports suggest that he is committed to debating again, end quote. That's from Sky News Australia. I don't know about you, but I would watch a second one of these debates, if anything, just for an excuse to have people over and watch politics again. But I have serious doubts that even the Democratic Party is actually going to let this happen. Especially after you see articles like this. Quote, Biden's disastrous debate pitches his re-election bid into crisis. Minutes into the showdown, hosted by CNN, a full-blown Democratic panic was underway at the idea of heading into the election with such a diminished figure at the top of the ticket, end quote. Here's the kicker. That quotation and that headline were from CNN. After the debate last night, we were seeing essentially like the commentary of what was going on after the debate from the various anchors on CNN. At the bottom of the screen, there was, you know how in the news they put those like rectangles at the bottom of the screen that have the words? I don't know what they're called, but it was one of those. And it basically said that Democrats were panicking after what happened in the debate and how Joe Biden performed. If you have CNN saying that, you know you are in serious trouble as a candidate. If you can't even get the most liberal news organization in the United States of America, possibly the world, backing you up after that, you know that you really need to rethink some things as a party. But let's continue with these headlines. Quote, Biden's biggest weakness, his age, was on full display at the debate, end quote. That's from ABC News, and then the last one that I have is, after that debate, the risk of running Biden is clear. That's from the New York Times. Now, you can see that all of these liberal news sites, all of these different media websites are kind of starting to panic. But that's not even the half of it. Democratic panic ensued to an insane extent last night after the debate. Let's check out this story from Raw Story News. Quote, one Democratic congressman I was in touch with who was on Capitol Hill at a watch party with a number of other lawmakers at a moment early on in the debate where President Biden was talking about the national debt and seemed to lose his train of thought and paused for several seconds and then gave a confusing answer, he said that when that happened, the entire room was just completely silent and in shock. In addition to that, this member's own reaction was that he wanted to jump off of a bridge. End quote. This is from CNN's senior White House correspondent, MJ Lee. I don't think that I've ever seen something on TV that's made me have the reaction saying that I'm going to go jump off a bridge as a result. This is what I mean by absolute Democratic panic ensued last night. I could have told you this a long time ago. Joe Biden is not fit to run for another term. Just think about it. When he was at a rally, I don't even have to bring this up again, but I will. When he was at a rally, he was trying to call 4 more years and get a chant started. But he was reading it off of the teleprompter and said, and I quote, 4 more years, pause. He's not mentally or physically fit to run for another 4 years, and I can't believe that they're even making him finish this term and making him do this job as of now. At this point, it's kind of funny and kind of sad at the same time because obviously the guy doesn't really have his wits about him, and he should not be the one continuing to do this job or trying to apply for it for another 4 years. At this point, the Democratic Party really does need to rethink its strategy. However, I don't know how good of a thing that would actually be. However, we'll get into that in a second. Back to this article, or actually this is a new article from the Daily Wire, quote, media pundits and commentators declared President Joe Biden's campaign dead on Thursday night after his disastrous showing against Donald Trump in the election's first presidential debate. The panic from left-wing CNN pundits matched the network's own polling, which found that 67% of respondents said that Trump won the debate. Quote, he's doing the best that he can, said CNN Democrat analyst Van Jones, but he had a test to meet tonight to restore confidence in the country and of the base, and he failed to do that. End quote. He went even farther, saying that Biden essentially needs to end his campaign. He said, quote, we're still far from our convention, and there is time for this party to figure out a different way forward if he will allow us to do that. End quote. What exactly does this different way forward look like? There are 3 options that I've heard, 3 different theories. None of these are verified, but let's dive into these and see how likely each of them are. The first one of these options. Kamala Harris. Now, I know that I'm not just speaking for myself here. America does not want a Kamala Harris presidency. There's no way. She's not that much better than Joe Biden, to be completely honest. I mean, yes, she can stand up and speak for a little bit longer, but she talks in circles and says the same 5 words over and over and over and over again. In addition to that, she doesn't really have any idea what she's doing on policy either. She was hired as a quote-unquote border czar, but I don't think that she's been to the border once. I could be wrong about that, but she does not know what to do about our foreign policy. We need someone who's going to run who does know how to close the border and who does know how to deal with these issues, because it's becoming insane. I don't think that a Kamala Harris presidency would be necessarily a good thing, and I don't think that she would be able to get the votes. Let's look at the next of these potential other candidates that the Democrats are thinking about running for Plan B, and that would be Michelle Obama. Big Mike, they're thinking about potentially running Michelle Obama. Now, it sort of makes sense because Barack Obama was a fairly well-liked candidate from the Democratic Party. He did know what he was doing on a few different issues. He was great on border policy. But I don't honestly think that we would be able to get enough votes to have a Michelle Obama presidency either. Here's the thing. I think that the party is probably a little bit too divided on the Democratic side at this point. The Republican Party, we've already got our nominee. Not everybody likes him, but everybody thinks that he's better than whatever's going to be on the other side. We're fairly decided that we're running and voting for Donald Trump at this point. But the Democratic Party doesn't seem to have their ducks in a row. They can't decide if they want to keep Joe Biden in the race, if they want to swap him out for Kamala, if they want to swap him out for Michelle Obama, or there's one more that I've heard about that doesn't seem quite as likely, but it's still worth talking about. And that would be Governor Gavin Newsom of California. I, for one, do not want a Gavin Newsom presidency at all. His policies have absolutely run the state of California into the ground. I don't think that we need this kind of a person as the president of the United States. But I'm not in charge of the Democratic Party. However, he's also said that he's not going to run for president, a couple of times at this point, so maybe we don't even have to worry about that. Either way, whoever they decide to run the Democratic Party is in huge trouble, or as Donald Trump would say, huge trouble, after last night's debate. But what can we take away from this? Well, obviously, to some extent, politics is a comedy show. We can see it as such, or we can be ridiculously depressed about the state of our nation and our politicians. For once, I'm not letting my pessimist side get the best of me, and I'm just going to say that it's option one. We should watch this, we should be entertained by this, and we should all be informed on what kind of policies each of these candidates represent, advocate for, and want to see when they're in office. And last but not least, I don't think that either of them would have won a team policy debate round. Just saying. If I were to call my opponent a sucker or a loser or get up and just say that everything that he said is a lie in my rebuttal, that wouldn't fly. But, luckily for them, they're not in team policy debate, and they can kind of say whatever they want. And that's the beauty of free speech.